The transmission arrived at 3:47, Standard Galactic Time. Ambassador Valdrix positioned his central eye toward the recording lens, his three auxiliary eyes tracking the human delegation across the negotiation chamber. They looked small, fragile, their soft bodies wrapped in pressure suits designed to fail in vacuum, their breathing apparatuses cycling atmosphere their own lungs couldn't process unaided. He had practiced this moment for 6 cycles. "Humanity," Valdrix began, his translator converting Thexian clicks into galactic standard, "the compact has reached consensus. Your species represents an uncontrolled variable. Your expansion violates 14 treaties you never signed. Your resilience defies biological classification." Across the chamber, the human ambassador, a female with gray-streaked hair and hands that never stopped moving, watched him without expression. "The bounty is set at 50,000 credits per confirmed termination," Valdrix continued. "Identification requires standard genetic markers, no age restrictions, no territorial limitations, no quarter." The human ambassador's hand stopped moving. Every Thexian in the chamber recognized that stillness. Predator species often froze before striking, but humans weren't predators. They were persistent hunters. Worse, they were survivors. Valdrix had read the reports. Humanity's homeworld gravity should have crushed their skeletons. Its solar radiation should have melted their cellular repair mechanisms. Its weather systems should have drowned their ancestors 1,000 times over. Yet here they sat, breathing processed air, wearing pressure suits, refusing to die. "You're making a mistake," the human ambassador said. Her voice carried no threat, no anger, just fact delivered the way a physician might describe a terminal diagnosis. Valdrix's mandibles clicked in amusement. "Mistake. We control 240 worlds. Our military ships number in the tens of thousands. Your remaining colonies fit inside a single Thexian industrial sector." The human ambassador stood, her chair retracted into the floor plate. "How many ships did you send to Ceres Station?" Valdrix accessed his data feed. 3 cruisers, 12 support vessels, standard pacification protocol. "And what did they find?" He checked again. Nothing. No confirmed kills, no resistance reports, no communication at all from the task force for 78 standard hours. The human ambassador smiled. Not the predatory display Valdrix had studied in xenobiology texts. Something worse, something patient. "Ceres was a mining colony," she said. 8,000 people, 14 fusion drills, 47 years of tunnel networks. You sent 15 ships into a rock that we've been carving like a hive for half a century." She turned her back on him, walked toward the exit. Valdrix's translator caught her final words as the chamber doors opened. "We don't build colonies, Ambassador. We build traps. We've been waiting for someone to give us a reason." The doors sealed. The chamber fell into the kind of silence that precedes collapse. Valdrix's data feed updated. 15 ships, 0 survivors, no wreckage, no bodies, just 16,000 tons of twisted alloy drifting through the asteroid belt, each piece cut with surgical precision. He reviewed the human's words again. "We've been waiting for someone to give us a reason." For the first time in his diplomatic career, Ambassador Valdrix had nothing to say. The bounty went live across 17 star systems. 3,000 hunter vessels accepted contracts within the first rotation. None of them would ever report success. Kazrak the Collector had never failed a contract. His ship, Debt Collector, carried 37 kill markers across 6 species. His crew of Rithalians specialized in tracking fugitives through jump networks. When the human bounty appeared, Kazrak calculated his retirement in hours, not cycles. "Target coordinates locked," his navigation officer reported. "Outer Rim Colony, population estimated at 200. Kazrak's feeding mandible twitched. Estimated, why estimated? Atmospheric interference. Thermal signatures inconsistent with human habitation patterns. He should have turned back then. Every instinct developed across 40 years of hunting screamed a warning. But 50,000 credits per head, 200 heads meant 10 million. Enough to buy a small moon. Enough to retire to a warm ocean world where Rithalian joints didn't ache in vacuum cold. Drop us at the edge of the gravity well. Silent approach. Debt collector emerged from jump space above a world that had no official designation. The human colony records called it Rockfall, a mining outpost built into a dead moon's crust. Kazrak's sensors painted a picture of primitive habitation, pressure domes, surface mining rigs, a single landing pad designed for cargo haulers, not warships. Life signs, he asked. 12, the sensor officer said. Maybe the interference is. The ship lurched. Not weapons fire, not a collision. Something had latched onto their hull. Kazrak's displays flickered. Gravitational anomalies bloomed across his tactical map, hundreds of them, thousands, emerging from the asteroid field like spores from a rotting carcass. What are those? The sensor officer's voice cracked. Mining drones, but they're moving like a swarm, coordinated. Someone's flying them. Someone was. Kazrak watched his shields drop from 60% to 0 in 3 seconds. The drones weren't weapons. They were tools, fusion cutters, ore haulers, deep drill equipment, all of them retrofitted with magnetic clamps and shaped charges. The humans had turned their mining operation into a kill box. Emergency jump, plot any vector. The navigation officer's hands flew across the console. Jump drive offline. They're cutting into the engine housing. Kazrak had 1 second to understand what was happening. The humans hadn't scattered when the bounty was announced. They'd gathered. They'd prepared. Every colony was a fortress. Every civilian was a soldier. Every rock they'd ever mined was a weapon waiting for a target. The last thing Kazrak saw was the interior of Debt Collector flooding with vacuum, as a fusion drill ate through the bridge walls. Across 17 systems, the pattern repeated. Hunter ships arrived at empty coordinates. They found colonies abandoned but not destroyed, power plants left running, food storage untouched, living quarters arranged as if the occupants had simply walked away mid-meal. The humans had vanished into the dark, taking everything of value and leaving behind only traps. Bounty hunter guilds stopped accepting contracts when their loss rates exceeded 90%. The ones who survived reported the same details. Humans moving through asteroid fields without life support. Humans breaching ships through vacuum. Humans fighting like they had nothing left to lose. Because they didn't. The Compact's intelligence division compiled a report that would have saved thousands of lives if anyone had read it earlier. The final line became infamous across military academies for generations. Humanity does not flee extinction, they weaponize it. But by then, the hunters had already stopped hunting. The hunted had turned the tables. And the galaxy had no idea what came next. High Admiral Xylos of the Thexian Dominion had commanded fleets for 80 cycles. He had suppressed rebellions, annexed frontier sectors, and once obliterated an asteroid field to prove a point about orbital superiority. Nothing in his experience prepared him for the data on his display. Explain these numbers again. His tactical analyst, a young Rithalian named Precht, looked like he hadn't slept in days. We've lost 247 hunter vessels in 72 standard hours. That's a 73% loss rate across all active bounties. Xylos' primary eye narrowed, and the humans, how many confirmed kills? Precht's scales dimmed with discomfort. 0, High Admiral. 0. We have no verified human casualties. The hunters aren't dying in firefights. They're disappearing. Whole ships, crews, everything. We find debris fields at best, and the debris doesn't match weapon signatures we recognize. Xylos pulled up the tactical map. Red dots marked every hunter loss. The pattern made no sense. Disappearances clustered around asteroid belts, gas giant rings, and debris fields, regions most species avoided because navigation became impossible. Humans, apparently, didn't share that limitation. Show me the series analysis again. Precht's claws danced across the console. The series engagement had been the first major loss. 15 compact military ships, 0 survivors, no distress calls, no battle recordings, nothing. Recovery teams had spent 40 hours picking through wreckage before they found something strange. Here, Precht magnified a section of debris. This alloy, it's not military grade, it's civilian. Construction steel, pressure vessel plating, cargo container materials. Xylos felt his feeding mandible go dry. The humans fought a military task force with civilian ships. No, High Admiral, they didn't fight. They dismantled. Look at the cut patterns on this hull section. The image expanded. Clean lines, precise angles, the kind of cuts produced by industrial fusion cutters, not weapons. They didn't shoot at the task force, Precht said slowly, as if realizing the truth while speaking it. They carved them apart, like they were salvaging scrap. The chamber fell silent. Every officer present understood the implication. Humans hadn't defended Ceres Station. They'd harvested the compact's warships the same way they harvested asteroids, methodically, efficiently, without wasted motion or unnecessary violence. Xylos reviewed the bounty announcement again. Ambassador Valdrix's words seemed foolish now. 50,000 credits per human, a price tag on a species that treated military vessels like salvage operations. What's our current Hunter Guild status? Precht checked his feed. Most guilds have stopped accepting contracts. The ones still active are demanding triple rates and guaranteed military escorts. And the humans, do we have any location data on their population? Another pause. Precht's scales flushed with embarrassment. They're not anywhere we can find, High Admiral. We tracked their colonies before the bounty, 87 established settlements across 4 sectors. Now, nothing. Every colony is empty. Every habitat is cold. Every ship we can identify has either gone dark or been stripped for parts. Xylos stared at the tactical map. 87 colonies, hundreds of thousands of humans. Gone, not dead, disappeared. Vanished into the vast darkness between stars where no species had ever successfully hidden before. Then where are they? He asked. Precht opened his mouth to answer. Every console on the bridge went dark. The blackout lasted 11 minutes. When power returned, High Admiral Xylos discovered that every ship in his fleet had experienced the same failure. Not an attack, a message. Someone had inserted data packets into the compact's military communication network, not to damage it, to deliver a file. The file contained a single video recording. A human female sat in what appeared to be a maintenance tunnel. Her pressure suit was patched in a dozen places. Her face carried the hollow look of someone who had stopped eating regularly. Behind her, other humans moved through the shadows, children, elderly, workers, all of them carrying tools instead of weapons. My name is Dr. Alina Vasquez, she said. I'm an engineer, was an engineer, before your compact decided my species was worth more dead than alive. She held up a data slate. Schematic drawings filled the screen. You sent hunters after us, professional killers, tracking experts. You thought we'd run. You thought we'd hide in caves and wait to die. She smiled, not triumph, not anger, something worn smooth by repeated tragedy. We've been hiding for 200 years, Admiral. Every time Earth's environment tried to kill us, we hid underground. Every time our own wars threatened extinction, we hid in bunkers. Every time the sun tried to burn through our atmosphere, we hid behind shields we built from nothing. The schematic on her slate changed. Xylos recognized the layout, Ceres stations mining tunnels. When your compact showed up with warships and bounties, we stopped hiding. We started building. Another schematic. This one showed asteroid fields across 4 sectors, each asteroid marked with a symbol Xylos didn't recognize. Those dots are every mining operation humanity has run in the last century, every rock we've drilled, every tunnel we've carved, Every piece of infrastructure your species ignored because you thought we were just primitive death worlders scratching for resources. Dr. Vasquez leaned closer to the camera. Your ships are made of refined alloys. Our colonies are made of traps. Every habitat you found empty. It wasn't empty. It was a lure. Every hunter who accepted your bounty, they gave us everything we needed. The schematic zoomed out. Xylos watched in horror as thousands of dots connected into a web: supply routes, communication relays, fuel depots, military patrol patterns. All of it data extracted from hunter ships that had flown straight into human-controlled space. You offered a bounty on every human head, Dr. Vasquez said, but you didn't ask why we stopped running. The recording ended. Xylos sat in darkness as the message looped back to the beginning. His tactical analysts had already started mapping the data from the video and finding that the hunter ships hadn't just been destroyed. They'd been interrogated. Every navigation log, every communication archive, every supply manifest had been extracted before the ships were cut apart. The humans hadn't been defending themselves. They'd been gathering intelligence for a counterstrike. High Admiral Prex said, his voice barely a whisper, the hunter guilds, their headquarters, their supply chains, their fuel depots. Xylos finished the thought. The humans know where everything is. Every console on the bridge displayed the same warning: multiple infrastructure failures across compact space, power grids collapsing on industrial worlds, shipyards reporting catastrophic malfunctions, communication relays redirecting military fleets into empty space, or, worse, into each other. The bounty had activated something the Compact never anticipated. Not resistance. Annihilation, slow, patient, deliberate. The kind of annihilation only a species that had nearly destroyed itself could understand. The first major target fell within 12 hours of Dr. Vasquez's message. Hunter Guild Central, a massive orbital station housing the Compact's entire bounty infrastructure, lost all systems simultaneously. No warning, no attack signature. One moment, the station processed bounty claims across 17 systems. The next, every computer core overrode itself with corrupted data. Every escape pod launched empty. Every life support system vented atmosphere into vacuum. 3,000 personnel died before anyone realized the station was under attack. The method of destruction became clear within hours. Humans hadn't hacked the station's security. They'd built backdoors into every piece of equipment the hunter guilds had purchased from human-controlled manufacturers over the past decade. Refueling systems, navigation computers, atmospheric processors. All of them contained code that lay dormant until activated by a signal no one had detected. The signal came from a derelict human freighter drifting through compact space. A freighter the hunter guilds had boarded, searched, and released 6 months before the bounty was announced. They planted the trigger before we declared war, Prex said, staring at the damage assessment. They knew, somehow they knew we were coming. High Admiral Xylos watched his empire crumble in real time. Power plants on Thexian industrial worlds, plants built by human engineering firms during a brief period of trade relations, began cycling at unsafe temperatures. Fusion reactors melted down across 3 sectors. Shipyards lost primary power during critical construction phases, sending half-built dreadnoughts crashing into orbital infrastructure. Not military strikes, industrial sabotage, weaponized supply chains. The humans hadn't built weapons. They'd built dependencies. Every compact species had purchased human technology at some point: mining equipment, atmospheric processors, medical scanners, communication arrays. All of it cheap, all of it reliable, all of it rigged to fail on command. They're not attacking our fleets, Xylos realized. They're attacking our ability to build fleets. Prex's data slate chimed. Another report, this one from the military communication network. Every hunter ship still active had just received the same transmission: coordinates for what appeared to be a human colony, unprotected, undefended, rich with bounty targets. 200 hunter vessels, jumped toward the coordinates within the hour. They arrived at an empty gas giant's upper atmosphere. No colony, no humans, just a navigation buoy broadcasting a single phrase on repeat. Welcome to the kill box. The gas giant's gravity well held the hunter ships in place long enough for the mining drones to arrive. Thousands of them, tens of thousands, every drone humanity had ever built, waiting in the darkness between moons. The battle lasted 14 minutes. 200 hunter vessels reduced to debris. 0 human casualties. Xylos watched the sensor feed from a hidden compact observation platform. The mining drones moved with coordination no machine should possess, swarming, cutting, dismantling, harvesting. They didn't fight like weapons. They fought like workers performing a task they'd done a million times before. Because that's what they were. Humans hadn't built a military. They'd converted their entire industrial base into a weapon of mass destruction. Every drill, every cutter, every hauler, all of it designed to break things apart and process the remains. They'd spent centuries perfecting the art of dismantling. The compact had just volunteered to become raw materials. Ambassador Valdrix received the human delegation in the same chamber where he'd announced the bounty. The room felt different now, smaller. The air carried the smell of recycled atmosphere and defeat. His 3 auxiliary eyes tracked every movement as the humans entered, not in pressure suits this time, but in simple gray uniforms that reminded him of prison garments or work clothes. Dr. Elena Vasquez led the delegation. She walked without guards, without weapons, without any of the ceremonial protection Valdrix's species considered essential for negotiations. Ambassador, she said, taking the same seat she'd occupied during the bounty announcement. You look well. Valdrix's feeding mandible clicked dryly. You destroyed Hunter Guild Central, 3,000 personnel. You placed a bounty on every human head, 800,000 refugees, 200 colonies abandoned, 73 settlements burned before we evacuated. She spoke without anger, without satisfaction, without anything except exhaustion so complete it had become a kind of peace. We can continue this conversation, Ambassador. We can list casualties until the recording crystals run out, or we can discuss terms. Valdrix accessed his data feed. The damage reports had stopped arriving, not because the attacks had ended, but because the compact's communication network had collapsed under the strain of processing so many simultaneous failures. His species faced economic ruin within cycles, military collapse within days, famine within months. What do you want? Dr. Vasquez placed a data slate on the table between them. Lift the bounty, publicly, unconditionally. Every compact government issues a formal apology and pays reparations to every displaced human colony. The hunter guilds disband permanently, their assets liquidated to fund our reconstruction. Valdrix's mandibles spread in what passed for a Thexian smile. And if we refuse? The human ambassador's hands moved across the slate. A holographic display bloomed above the table, a map of compact space, marked with thousands of red dots. Those are every infrastructure vulnerability we've identified. Power grids, water processing, food distribution, medical supply chains. We can collapse any of them at any time, not destroy them, collapse them. Make them fail so slowly that your populations die of thirst while watching their neighbors starve. She met his central eye. We don't want that, Ambassador. We don't want revenge. We want you to understand what you almost did. You almost exterminated a species that had already survived everything the universe could throw at it. And in doing so, you taught us something we'd forgotten. What? Dr. Vasquez stood. Her delegation rose with her. That we're not prey. We never were. We're just the ones who learned to live after everything else died. She turned toward the exit, then paused. Your compact has 72 hours to accept these terms. After that, we stop offering negotiations and start offering consequences. The doors closed behind her. Valdrix sat alone in the negotiation chamber, staring at the data slate. The human terms were generous, more generous than his species deserved. He'd read enough history to know what other civilizations would have demanded in the same situation: territory, technology, unconditional surrender. The humans wanted none of that. They wanted to go home. And that, more than any weapon or strategy, terrified Ambassador Valdrix more than anything else. He finally understood what the bounty hunters had learned in their final moments. Humans didn't fight for glory or conquest or revenge. They fought for the right to keep living. And nothing in the galaxy had ever proven capable of stopping them. The Compact accepted the terms with 21 hours to spare. Bounty hunter guilds dissolved within a standard month, their leaders facing legal consequences from every species they'd ever hunted. Reparations flowed into human reconstruction accounts, not as charity, but as debt. The galaxy owed humanity a debt that could never fully be repaid. But humanity didn't wait for payment. Dr. Elena Vasquez returned to Ceres Station 3 months after the negotiations ended. The asteroid looked different now, not as a military outpost or a trap, but as what it had always been: a home. Children ran through tunnels that had once held fusion drills pointed at warships. Families planted gardens in pressure domes that had served as command centers. Workers repaired mining drones that had dismantled fleets, returning them to their original purpose of harvesting resources for construction, not destruction. High Admiral Xylos watched all of this through diplomatic observation feeds. He had expected humanity to build weapons, to fortify their borders, to turn every colony into a fortress that no species would ever dare approach. Instead, they built schools. "You don't understand them," Precht said, standing beside Xylos at the observation post. "I've been studying their history, their psychology. Every time someone tried to destroy them, they responded by building something new, not walls, homes." Xylos's primary eye tracked a human child running through a tunnel, laughing at something only children could see. "Why?" he asked. "Why not prepare for the next threat?" Precht pulled up a human document, a speech delivered on Earth centuries ago, before interstellar travel, before the Compact, before any of this. "They tried to bury us," the document read. "They didn't know we were seeds." Xylos read the words 3 times before understanding. Humans didn't rebuild because they were naive. They rebuilt because resilience was their only inheritance. Every attempt to destroy them scattered their population further, spread their influence wider, and taught them more about survival. The bounty hadn't weakened humanity. It had proven what they'd always known. They could survive anything. The observation feed showed Dr. Vasquez walking through Ceres Station's main concourse. Children gathered around her, asking questions about the war, about the Compact, about why the bad aliens had wanted to hurt them. She knelt to their level and said something Xylos's translator couldn't quite capture, but her hands moved as she spoke, not in threat, not in warning, but in the same gestures she'd used during negotiations. The gestures of someone building something fragile out of wreckage. Precht's data slate chimed. A new report from Compact Intelligence. Human colonies were expanding again, not into contested territory, not toward military targets, just outward the way water flows downhill, following the path of least resistance toward empty space and new opportunities. "They're not afraid of us," Xylos said. Precht shook his head. "They never were. They were afraid of forgetting how to live." The observation feed shifted to a new angle. A human family stood at an airlock, preparing to depart for a new colony on the edge of compact space. Parents held children. Children held toys. All of them carried nothing that could be used as a weapon. Xylos realized he was watching the most dangerous thing he'd ever seen. Not weapons, not strategies, not traps. Hope. Unbreakable, unkillable, untamable. The galaxy had placed a bounty on every human head. And humanity had responded by proving that heads could be replaced, that communities could be rebuilt, that life could continue even after extinction had knocked on every door. The bounty was gone. The hunters were gone. But humanity remained. Growing, spreading, surviving. And somewhere in the dark between stars, Dr. Elena Vasquez smiled as her people boarded ships toward an uncertain future. She told Valdrix the truth in that negotiation chamber. They didn't want revenge. They wanted to live. And the galaxy had finally learned. Nothing was more terrifying than a species that refused to die. And